Live from Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Nigerian Senate to investigate Christmas Day U.S. military airstrike in Sokoto to asserting any breach of country's territorial integrity. Displaced Lagos residents scamper for safety as they protest demolitions and forced evictions. Sarah Mullally formally confirmed as Archbishop of Canterbury, marking historic milestone for the Church of England.
In business, preliminary report predicts a fall in Nigerian crude oil loadings by March.
And in sports news tonight, Anthony Joshua's promoter hopes for the return of the two-time heavyweight champion as Tyson Fury announces his comeback fight.
Tonight begins now. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight at the Upper Legislative Chamber, where lawmakers have resolved to investigate reported breach of Nigeria's territorial integrity following a United States military airstrike in Sokoto State. The resolution was reached during Wednesday's plenary, where lawmakers demanded clarity on foreign military operations within the country. Lawmakers also moved to quell controversy surrounding the 2025 Tax Reform Acts. The upper chamber issued a clean bill of health on the documents and dismissed claims of adulterations. News Centre's Sagi Ibrahim reports from the National Assembly.
In spite of whatever achievement that the hit made, Mr. President, this assembly has a core responsibility in governance. This assembly has a core accountability in governance. This assembly is not an appendage of the executive. Therefore, for every action intended, the leadership of the National Assembly must be taken along. It is not right. This is our second day. We have not heard from the chairman of the National Assembly as regards to this serious matter.
Because it's a matter of security, we really should not discuss it in the open. We should have a closed session so that you will be well briefed. But we lost the Senior Senator Akwashiki on our first sitting, and there was no time to undertake that. So you are very right. Your point of order is noted, and I want to assure you that just like you read on the pages of newspapers that the attack, I'm sure you are referring to what happened in Sokoto, happened with the concurrence and the collaboration of the Nigerian security services. We have also been so brief, but we need to brief you in closed session. We need to brief you in closed session. Security is not something that we speak in the market.
A peaceful protest against demolitions and forced evictions in Lagos on Wednesday took a dramatic turn after protesters were dispersed with tear gas near the Lagos State House of Assembly in Alausa. The demonstrators had earlier marched nearly 6 kilometers from Ikeja under the bridge, demanding an end to what they describe as forced evictions and displacement across several communities. News Centre's Victor Mbadike has more.
The protest began calmly in the early hours of the morning as residents, activists and civil society groups converged at Ikeja under bridge.
Today is not just a protest to demand shelter for the living. Today is also a day to demand justice for those who you have killed.
Did the Lagos State government agree with the elders to kill their babies and their children in the process of demolition? Is that what you're asking me? So what we are just asking is for the state to halt all illegal demolition.
They marched through major roads towards the State Assembly in Alausa, hoping to draw legislative attention to the plight of displaced residents across the state.
they destroy so many properties of our market because we are selling motor.
wọ́n kọ́ dédé dé ní bí abí ọwọ́ ìdájí ni wọ́n jẹ́ dé nínú àwẹ̀ àwọn èèyàn wà nínú àwẹ̀ wọ́n yìí ń sun oorun sáré ọkọ̀ dédé ní pé wọ́n jẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní wọ́ everywhere ọmọ gò lọ sí school mọ́ ọkọ̀ ní káàkiri inú owó dé ni ẹni tó ní shop ẹni tó kiri pure water.
After trekking nearly 6 kilometers from Ikeja under bridge to the Lagos State House of Assembly in Alausa, the protesters say their message is clear. Development must not come at the cost of displacement as they await a response from the Lagos State government. But the response they got wasn't what they expected. Several tear gas canisters were fired at the crowd, scattering the protesters.
The police officer just shot this woman
and leaving some with injuries.
We're here when they are raising abuses on me as Commissioner of Police Lagos State. That was vomiting blood. They call me all kind of name. But in my profession, I should work under pressure. No gunshot was fired. What we use is the minimum force that is allowed in protests when people become rioters. After all, we are inside with them. If it's going to cause any injury or death, it will have caused it to equally police personnel. Nobody is killed, nobody is injured, but we've been able to successfully dispatch them because if we allow them to continue to sit on the road, upcoming vehicle can run into them, and it's not safe for even them and equally other road users.
It is absolutely ridiculous in my view, just ridiculous. And they said Commissioner of Police is telling me I cannot afford to allow them to block a public fairway. I cannot allow you to destroy people's homes and make them homeless. Are we all mad in this country?
With the protesters gone, security personnel still maintain a strong presence at the State Assembly, as questions remain over the use of tear gas and the concerns raised by the affected protesters. In Lagos, for News Central, Victor Mbadike.
Thank you, Victor, for that report. Joining me now in the studio for this development is the Lagos State Police Commissioner, Oluhodare Jimo. Thank you very much, sir, for being here with us. I mean, looking at those visuals, were you moved? At what point was it necessary to use tear gas on those protesters? Because it looked largely peaceful.
Thank you so much. That's what it seems. I want to first of all thank you for the opportunity to come here to come and see our own part of the story. And we thank Nigeria for listening to us this evening. When the protest started, we warned them that the protest and expression of our opinions or our grievances are part of essentials of democracy that is entitled to by every Nigerian. But our right stops where that of others begin. And the march, you can see even the clip that you are showing, that the police were with them from under the bridge in Ikeja till they get to Alausa. That's why they found that they blocked the public highway. People who have medical emergencies were locked up in traffic. People who are going to travel out of the country or within Nigeria were locked up using a long way. They couldn't get to where they're going. There are a lot of complaints, but we exhibit a sense of restraint in ensuring that they see the reason to go peacefully. So when they get to the House of Assembly, the House were informed. I was on ground. Like you said, they clip the rain abuses on me, but I work under pressure and I don't yield to such sentiment. So in the process, the 5 members of House of Assembly members came out to address them. But because they are in segment, you can see the people from Owode Onire, the Mokoko people, the people from Owura, other area. And they see the reason why they should listen to the House of Assembly member. But those who consider themselves as the arrowhead that stimulates the protest have a different agenda of violence. And that is why they resist all opportunity to be peaceful. So in the circumstance, after being addressed by 5 members of the House of Assembly, Lagos State House of Assembly, they subsequently ordered the protester to sit down on the road and block entirely public transport coming in from Awolowo Road into the Alausa, the House of Assembly, into other area in Alausa and Ikeja. So, and we warn them, this is dangerous even for their life and the life of other road users. So like I said, that was the point, that we have to use minimum force to be able to ensure
water cannons.
Minimum force.
Tear gas.
Yes, tear gas. When you say tear gas is part of our minimum force. It's not lethal weapon. Nobody fired a single shot throughout the entire process. Your reporters were there, the reporter of other media houses were equally there. If there's any weapon that is fired, you hear the shot. So the tear gas is part of the minimum force to ensure that the areas.
No, but I'm curious because some persons were injured, like you saw in the report. That could have been avoided if that camper for safety wasn't necessitated by the use of
other Nigerians.
I mean,
Nigerians.
The question I asked remains, sir. Couldn't you have used maybe water cannons? Because those tear gas, I have experienced.
Water cannon equally carry hot water. Water cannon have hot water. And that where they are stationed, there's a water cannon there. So those are the minimum force that we can use. So at that point in time, to use the tear gas is the minimum force that we can dwell on to be able to ensure that we don't have a completely breakdown of law and order on our hands, because they insisted they are going to surge into the House of Assembly. And nobody can allow that, because these are people that are not profiled, these are people they cannot account for, and they can cause more mayhem if they enter into the House of Assembly.
Was there no way to arrest those who were instigating the protest then? Because I'm sure some of the persons that were instigating it were not harmed. It was the innocent ones who wanted to air their concerns that got...
Everybody that want to hear their concern were heard reasonably. 5 members of the Lagos State House of Assembly came out to address them. And in this process, surging into the House of Assembly, without proper check, no commissioner of police will allow that to happen. And it is on the basis of that we constantly advise them. But they insisted that they will enter into the House of Assembly by force. Some of them are already searching on the gate. And at that point in time, we have to use, like I keep on emphasizing, minimum force to dispatch them. In this process, we arrested one Taiwo Hassan and one Dele Frank. Both are in our custody. And we have concluded investigation. On what basis was that arrest conducted? For disturbance of public peace, for conduct likely to create fear and apprehension in the public, and for blocking the major road in the state, and disallowing other road users access to this public facility. It is completely wrong for them to have done so.
But aren't you concerned about the bad rep that this gives? I mean, yes, the bad reputation that this seems to give. This is not the first time, sir, with all due respect, this is not the first time that the police have been said to use tear gas when they could have explored other options. I talked about water cannon, and you said they could also be hot water cannon. But I mean, there are other ways that could have been
you can.
employed.
The other way are the way that they have disallowed it to function, because I come around there. In fact, they met me there, waiting for them to address them on the need to be peaceful, on the need to allow the leadership of the House of Assembly to come and talk to them and hear their grievances and take the grievances ahead for the management of the House of Assembly to deal with. Subsequently, they disallowed this, and despite that, the leadership of the House of Assembly sent 5 honorable members to come and talk to them. And they came and talked to them. And subsequently, you still decide to block this highway, our way to House of Assembly Road in Alausa. We blocked for 6 good hours, not allowing traffic. So it is quite important that when we carry out our right as enshrined in the Constitution, we consider the right of others. If protests are peaceful, we don't need to use any minimum.
Okay, so this Taiwo that was arrested, is he one of the organizers of the protest?
He was arrested in the act because we recovered a coffin. Anybody that is coming for a peaceful protest will not carry coffin. They carry coffin, and they call it part of
there are speculations that this particular person seems to be in your radar. Civil society groups are saying that at the moment. I don't understand what they mean by that in our radar, for what? Because if the protest was a group of persons, you only arrested 2.
Those are the arrowheads that caused the disorder, because we equally recovered a Canter Toyota truck that they used in blocking the road. This Canter Toyota truck was used to block the road, and Taiwo Hassan and Dele Francois inside the structure are used to block the road. The other people that were brought in from different segments, because after warning them, some of them dispatched.
So what would be the charges against these individuals now?
We are going to charge them to court in the court of competent jurisdiction for disorder of public peace, for causing chaos and causing pandemonium, and equally obstructing public highway, disallow other Nigerians the access to those highways. Like I said in the press release that my PRO sent out, we have reports of people that fainted in their vehicle during the process of the 6 hours that they blocked Awolowo Road, and equally the road leading to
Is there a follow-up from the police on those who were injured as a result of this?
As I speak with you, if not that you are showing me on the click now, there's no any report in any of the police stations that anybody is injured in this process. No death was recorded, no injury was recorded. But we follow up on this, and we want them to go to any nearest police station to lay their complaint if there's anybody that is injured.
I think this question I'll ask you now is very important. Would you consider subsequent, because this is not, I said earlier that this is not the first time that the police is using tear gas.
Example.
Would you consider in the future using other softer measures?
Tear gas are part of the minimum
force. Agree, but we also have
and protest. So if you are telling me
this is not an uprising. These are people who are concerned about their properties.
No, please. We have degree of weapon we can use. You know, we have rubber bullets.
So why the preference for tear gas?
Because at that point in time, there's no anything that we can do to protect the infrastructure of the National Assembly and people who are there in from being attacked and from being run over. And that's why we have to use minimum force of tear gas. In the other matter that you said, possibly, he's not in our radar. I know Taiwo Hassan. I don't know him by any other name. So it's not in my radar for anything. Even when they went to the Third Milan Bridge, you know the Third Milan Bridge.
You've stylishly not responded to the part where I asked, would you consider other options? I'm sure there are
definitely the option of dialogues. And that is
in the case of protest, because protest is also a right.
Protest, if it's peaceful, is allowed by the law. But when you take laws into your hand to block public highway, disallow other Nigerians, millions of Nigerians, from the use of that public highway, there is no more a protest. When you go to protest ground and you are carrying coffin already, and you are carrying a vehicle with loudspeaker with generator, and you are using it to block other Nigerians from use of that highway, then your rights stop there. So protests should be peaceful, and we'll continue to abide with protests.
I want to say thank you for obliging us today and stating the side of the police. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, Sharia Council demands removal of INEC chairman over allegations of election bias. We'll tell you more when we come back. Just stay with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Nigerian Senate to investigate Christmas Day U.S. military airstrike in Sokoto to asserting any breach of country's territorial integrity. Displaced Lagos residents scamper for safety as they protest demolitions and forced evictions from homes. Sarah Mullally formally confirmed as Archbishop of Canterbury, marking historic milestone for the Church of England. Thank you for staying with us. Now, Nigeria and Turkey have signed 9 cooperation agreements following a leaders' meeting between President Recep Erdogan and President Bola Tinubu in Ankara. The agreements cover key areas including diaspora affairs, media and communication, education, halal accreditation, military cooperation and diplomacy, with both countries also establishing a joint economic and trade committee to deepen economic engagement.
Of solid minerals, I had a meeting, very useful meeting with the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources of Turkey, and we recall that about several years ago, 2020, thereabout, 3 MOUs were signed between Turkey and Nigeria on solid minerals exploitation. But unfortunately, those MOUs were not actioned, they were not followed up. And so today we decided that we had to revive those MOUs, sign new ones, and of course expand the frontiers.
I can't go into more details, but the truth is that we want to leverage on the experiences and the performance, the professionalism of the Turkish Armed Forces, what they have been able to achieve within a short period. If you remember, before now they equally were faced with a lot of challenges of terrorism and how they were able to tackle it. They also realized that they couldn't have done it alone without being able to produce what they need. And so they built up their capacity and are able to produce what they need. Now we are leveraging on that, partnering together, so it's going to go into issues of training, equipment production, purchase of equipment, exchange of officers and troops together.
I think the military agreement means a lot to us, especially with regards to our military cooperation, security cooperation, and we hope that that will really catalyze the border protection initiative of this administration.
A critical element of the engagement, of course, once you have a secure environment, is investment. And here we looked at the fact that trade between Turkey and Nigeria, about $1 billion now, and there was a marker laid down. Both presidents said their commitment is to reach trade volume of $5 billion, as well as to engage in investments in each economy so that Nigerian investments in Turkey, as well as Turkey investments in Nigeria.
Ade Adefeko is an ex-official of NASIMA and former honorary consul of Botswana in Lagos. He joins me now to discuss the Nigeria-Turkey bilateral agreements. Thank you very much for obliging us today. $5 billion trade target. Talk to us about the potential benefits of this agreement.
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me, and good evening, viewers. To set context, Turkey is, or Nigeria is Turkey's largest trading partner in Africa. That's quite significant. Again, historical reference, a lot of you might not remember that Turkey was part of what you call the Ottoman Empire way back, so historically. Speaking to the agreements that were reached, there was a Defense Cooperation Act which was signed, and of course, Nigeria is now a strategic partner of Turkey. Turkey faced and still faces a lot of challenges on the terrorist front. In the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, there have been a spate of terrorist attacks. But again, the Turkish people have been able to defend themselves against the onslaught, and Nigeria is taking a cue by trying to partner and leverage on Turkey's very strong capabilities in that regard. On the economic side, there's trying to establish what you call the Economic and Trade Joint Committee, which is important because investments are important for the two countries. The two countries are what you might call middle concept powers. But again, the Turkish are probably a notch ahead in the area of many things. There are a lot of things in the area of halal quality assurance, cooperation in the field of higher education. There are Turkish schools in Nigeria, there are Turkish hospitals here, and in the field of media and communication, where you play as well, is important. So they have the TV, which they project outside Turkey to the outside world. So they control their own narrative, and I think it's something Nigeria can learn from by controlling its own narrative as well from its own lens and prism. And it's something that I think we should work with. And again, there's something called the diaspora policy. Not quite sure what that's about. But again, Nigerian diaspora is a diaspora that is very, 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 very large across the world.
Okay.
If you love education, yes.
Yeah, this is not the first time that Nigeria is signing bilateral agreements. Are you concerned about how this will come to fruition in terms of tangible, verifiable opportunities that will come out of these agreements, or is just another exercise that goes with diplomatic meetings?
I do not think so. I think that's the reason why you have what you call the Economy and Trade Joint Committee. Once you have that kind of committee, it's now a committee that is a standing committee, and it's a committee that will look through all these agreements that have been signed. What is important is that what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. Half of the time in the country will never really follow through. What we need now is a continuum from what President Tinubu has done in Turkey. And Turkey, like I said, is a middle income country, and is a country that is a country that is straddled between Europe and Asia. So it's a country where you have, technically speaking, sometimes the best of two worlds. So I think and I believe, quite frankly, that if we have that Economy and Trade Joint Committee set up, or have a Nigeria Turkey Joint Commission, like you have with other countries, I think we should be able to follow through. But the questions should be asked: what areas comparative advantage does Nigeria have? What area of comparative advantage does Turkey have? So those are the things we should look at. And in the area of sports as well, a lot of our players have played in Turkey. We can look at the likes of JJ Okocha. We can look at the likes of Uche Ikechukwu. We can go on and on. Okay. So for us, we have a sporting rapport or relationship, which is very, particularly football. So, and again, in the area of aviation, Turkish Airlines comes into Nigeria. I'm not sure how many frequencies they have. So there's a lot between us and Turkey, and I think it's something that we should just build upon, and we should follow through.
Yeah, a lot of agreements were signed. Which of them would you say stands out the best for you in terms of opportunities that you would see for Nigerian businesses in the Turkish market?
For me, I think it's that the Economy and Trade Joint Committee. There's a Nigerian Turkish Business Council, which is led by a good friend of mine and former president of NASIMA, which is Dele Oye. So, and they have been doing a lot at the background on trying to improve Nigeria-Turkish relations. And I think this visit by the president of Nigeria will further cement that. And what the government must do is to make sure that they bring the private sector into the mix. What usually happens is that these visits happen and there's no follow through. There's no one trying to see how we can dot cross the T's and dot the I's. So for me, that Economy and Trade Joint Committee is what is very important. The Turkish lira is quite strong. We're not doing badly in terms of exports to them, but we import more from Turkey. So furniture, we import clothes, we import sometimes. I mean, even on the defense side, we could explore bringing in some of their jets that they use for to combat terrorist attacks. So for me, I think again, what is important, like I said, is that Turkey is straddled between Asia and Europe. And I think the journey between Lagos and Ankara, or Lagos and Istanbul, is not more than 6 hours. So I think that is equally very good. So it's a good trade route for us as well.
I guess we'll wait to see all the beauties from these agreements. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
And good night, listeners.
Good night. Let's now tell you that the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria has renewed its demand for the immediate removal of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amupiton, I beg your pardon, citing concerns over his neutrality and past conduct. Speaking at the Council's 2026 annual pre-Ramadan lecture in Abuja, the president of the Council's, Bashir Umar, declared that the Muslim Ummah will not recognize any election conducted under the current leadership. Umar alleged that a legal brief previously authored by Amopita, which claimed the existence of a Christian genocide in Nigeria, compromises its integrity as an unbiased electoral umpire.
In the legal brief that he sent, which he made, in which he established the existence of a Christian genocide, which the federal government has categorically dismissed and said that there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria, puts him in direct conflict to what is the position of the nation, and his position will be an act that is unacceptable and has shown that he is clearly religiously biased And as an umpire for the democratic practice of electing a democratic government, you need to have someone who is clearly unbiased, whose integrity is not compromised. Because of the compromise of his integrity, we feel that the honorable thing for him to do is to resign, and if not, the government should actually dismiss him or at least return.
Still ahead, Iran warns U.S. against attacks, says it will respond like never before. More when we come back. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has assured the people of Plateau State that the National Assembly will provide the necessary funding to address insecurity and end internal displacement across the state. He gave the assurance in Jos, the Plateau State capital, during the formal reception of Governor Caleb Mutfwang into the All Progressives Congress following his defection from the People's Democratic Party. My colleague Chizoba Anyowi tells us more.
Celebration and reassurance for the people of Plateau State, particularly supporters of the All Progressives Congress, as Governor Caleb Mutfwang was formally received into the party at the popular Polo Field in Jos. The event attracted top government officials, including the Vice President, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the National Chairman of the APC, several governors, and a large gathering of the party faithful. The Vice President's message centered on improved security, unity, infrastructure development, and purposeful leadership.
I want to remind the people of Plateau that what binds us together supersedes whatever that divides us. Let's unite as a people. The governor said he's not defecting with his people. It's political realignment. It's about political re-engineering. And the dividends will start flowing in the next 3 weeks.
For the President of the Senate, the occasion marks a fresh beginning for Plateau State, particularly in the fight against insecurity.
We will not allow anybody to be left behind. We will do all our best to provide the necessary funding for the President to close down all the IDP camps and allow our people to go back to the farms so that we can have surplus food at the end of 2026 and beyond 2027.
Other stakeholders, including leaders of the ruling party, expressed optimism that Plateau State is poised for renewed growth and stability.
Now that you are the leader of the party, please and please embrace reconciliation among members of the party. Embrace brotherhood.
We are going to pilot Plateau State. We'll give direction to people of Plateau State. We ensure that the motto of our party, which is justice, will promote it on the plateau.
We are here to welcome you into our family. A family that is strong, a family that is bold, a family that is courageous, and a family that today is bringing renewed hope to Plateau State.
After receiving the broom, the symbol of the APC, Mutfwang described the moment as historic and reaffirmed his commitment to development of Plateau State.
It's a day of history. Today, we have formally begun a journey, the journey of redefining the political demographics of Nigeria. Today, we have begun a journey that will reposition Plateau State as a must-win state in future elections.
As the event drew to a close, residents of Plateau State expressed hope that the assurances given would translate into tangible action, restoring peace and prosperity to the state. In Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyui.
Outside Nigeria, Rwanda has launched international arbitration proceedings against the United Kingdom, claiming it owed £100 million under a cancelled asylum relocation agreement. The agreement, signed by a previous British government, provided for payment to Rwanda in return for hosting some asylum seekers who entered the UK illegally. British authorities halted the arrangement after a change of government, stating that future payments would no longer be made and the cancellation removed any outstanding obligations. And Iran's mission to the United Nations said the country will deliver an unprecedented retaliation to any U.S. attack. This warning is coming after President Donald Trump revived a threat that the United States is ready to launch a military attack against Iran as he demands Tehran make a deal over its nuclear program. Meanwhile, German Chancellor has said the Iranian government is nearing collapse following a renewed crackdown on protests across the country. That's one of our big stories tonight. Sarah Mullally has been formally confirmed as the Archbishop of Canterbury, marking a historic milestone for the Church of England. She becomes the first woman to hold the role since the church was founded nearly 1,400 years ago. The confirmation took place during a ceremony at St. Paul's Cathedral in London on Wednesday, 3 months after her appointment was announced. Speaking at the service, Mullally described the moment as an extraordinary and humbling privilege. Congratulations to her. We'll be back with business, sports, and entertainment news. So stay with us.
In business, exports of 4 key Nigerian crude oil grades are set to decline in March, with scheduled loadings averaging about 793,000 barrels per day, according to preliminary loading programs seen by Reuters. This represents roughly a 14% drop from the 922,000 barrels per day slated for February. The affected grades are Koiboy, Bonny Light, Bonga, and Focados, which together account for a significant share of Nigeria's export output. Still in West Africa, Ghana's central bank has cut its main interest rate by 250 basis points to 15.5%, marking the lowest level in 4 years and below most economists' forecasts. The reduction brings the cumulative easing since July 2025 to 12.5%, percentage points anyway, following prior cuts of 300 basis points in July and 350 basis points in September and November. Governor Johnson Asiama cited improved macroeconomic conditions, fiscal consolidation and rising reserves as key factors. Consumer inflation has fallen sharply from 54.1% in December 2022 to 5.4% in December 2025, supporting further rate easing. And looking at the equities markets, the market pulled back as the All-Share Index slipped 0.33% to close at 165,164.38 points, reflecting broad-based profit-taking that dragged sentiment across most of the sectors. Market capitalization settled at 10.5 trillion naira as sellers maintained the upper hand through these sessions. Now we look at the sectoral performance, looking at the banking industry now for a start. It actually declined 0.44%, pressured by sell-offs in heavyweight names such as GTCO and Zenith Bank as investors locked in recent gains. We also see that insurance dropped points by 1.32%, a steeper drop, I must say, weighed down by persistent weakness select encounters. Oil and gas is 0.04%, but then it's still in the reds anyway, with subdued trading in stocks such as Seplat, keeping the sector largely in its strides. Consumer goods also dropped 0.49%, and industrial goods remain flat. So we see how the sector performed, of course, as we tracked for today. My name is Lekon Obanjo, and that's it on business.
In sports news tonight, boxing promoter Eddie Hearn has offered an encouraging update on Anthony Joshua, hinting that the former heavyweight champion will continue his career despite a recent tragedy where two of his close friends lost their lives in a car accident in Nigeria. Speaking about Joshua's future, Hearn acknowledged the difficult road ahead but expressed confidence that Joshua would not walk away from the sport.
I was with him last week. You know, he's a remarkable man of strength. Like, you know, I don't know, you know, we were in the same house that he lived with those guys, and, you know, even I'm sitting there thinking, God, I just remember like a few months ago, we were all sitting at that table just talking about life and, you know, joking. And like you said, it was weird because after the Jake Paul fight, he was in such a high. Like, it was like last year was painful for him, you know.
Still in the world of boxing, former heavyweight world champion Tyson Fury will face 36-year-old Russian Azanbek Bakumov in the UK on 11th of April as he ends his latest spell of retirement. Now, the fight, which will be broadcast on Netflix, will be Fury's first since he lost his rematch with unified champion Alexander Usyk in December 2024.
I told y'all there was a big announcement coming today, baby! I done it. Got it over the line, and I'm absolutely psyched. Ready today to fight. Come on! The Mac is back. April, UK. I've been away 4 years. I've been away for a while, but I'm back now. And I also brought the biggest streaming platform alive along with me. Who else could bring that to Britain? Come on! And the year we have planned, oh my God, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's go, baby! Let's go! He's back.
Finally, in European football, West Ham have agreed to sell Brazil forward Lucas Paqueta to Flamengo for a fee exceeding £35.5 million. The 28-year-old who joined the Hammers from Lyon in 2022 has been cleared to travel to Brazil to complete the transfer before the 2nd of February winter deadline. West Ham were willing to sanction a deal that allowed Paqueta to stay on loan for the rest of the season, but Flamengo insisted on finalizing the move immediately. He's expected to link up with his new club ahead of the Brazilian top flight campaign, which begins in March. Elsewhere, Raheem Sterling has left Chelsea by mutual consent after reaching an agreement to end his contract early. The 31-year-old had 18 months remaining on his £325,000 per week deal. Now, Sterling leaves after 3.5 seasons at Stamford Bridge following his move from Manchester City for £47.5 million in 2022. Sterling will receive a payout clause from Chelsea, while the club will save money as the settlement will be less than the figure of over £20 million, and also he would have been paid for the remainder of his 3.5-year contract. That's all on Sports News tonight. I'm Okweoluwa Adibari. Entertainment is next with Kate.
Tonight, in the world of entertainment, Afrobeat superstar Tiwa Savage is set to take center stage at the Mobile Awards 2026 after being confirmed as one of the headline performers for the ceremony's landmark 30th anniversary. The awards will hold on March 26 at Manchester's Co-op Life Arena, celebrating music of black origin across the UK and globally. Tiwa Savage's appearance further cements her status as one of Africa's most influential music exports as she joins a performance lineup that also includes British singer and songwriter Olivia Dean and R&B trio Flo, with more acts expected to be announced. Moving on, American music and fashion icon Pharrell Williams has been honored by the French government, receiving the Chevalier de la Légion d'Honneur, one of France's highest civilian distinctions from President Emmanuel Macron. The private ceremony was held on January 23rd on the sidelines of Paris Men's Fashion Week. The honor acknowledges Pharrell's decades-long impact across the creative industries, spanning chart-topping music, fashion innovation, and cultural leadership. Family members and close industry peers were present at the ceremony, including longtime collaborators Future, Quavo, and Pusha T. And that's it on entertainment news for tonight. My name is Kate Adeogun.
And that's our offering tonight. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. Nigeria's Senate is set to investigate Christmas Day U.S. military airstrike in Sokoto to ascertain any breach of country's territorial integrity. Displaced Lagos residents scampered for safety as they protested demolitions and forced evictions from their homes. And Sarah Mullally has been formally confirmed as Archbishop of Canterbury, marking historic milestone for the Church of England. Please send your eyewitness report to the number being displayed now on your screen, or you can find us on social media at News Central TV to do so. You can watch live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you for being here with us. Have a good night.